Watch right now on the Front News Project. Maduro has been dragged to court by the scruff of his neck. Putin is next, and they say things are tense in the bunker. Web 2.0. In 2026, the Ukrainian armed forces are preparing a fiery greeting for the Russian invaders. And also, Denis Kapustin is alive, and Ukraine's GUR is humiliating Russian security agents. Fiery, hot, and blazing. Watch footage from the front lines right now. Greetings, this is Vladimir Timoshenko with you, and we're starting right away with the most important topic. The commander of the Russian Volunteer Corps, Denis Kapustin, is alive. Kapustin's death was part of a special GUR operation, and it lasted for more than a month. Basically, at first, the Russian special services put a hit out on Kapustin, and the GUR got involved in the process undercover. Now there is a living Kapustin and $500,000. Which the Russians allocated for the assassination of the RVC commander. Details about the special operation of the main intelligence directorate of Ukraine. In our report.
The Russian special services, as they say, ended up with egg on their face. Not at all. The Russian special services ordered the assassination of RVC commander Denis Kapustin, who is fighting against the Russians as part of Timur Guar's special unit, but he turned out to be alive.
Congratulations and Happy New Year. As of now, as of January 1st, 2026, all units of the Russian Volunteer Corps as part of Timur's special unit continue to carry out their tasks in the areas and directions you have designated. My temporary absence in no way affected the quality or success of the combat missions. I am ready to move to the area of operations and continue commanding the RVC units.
The GUR says that the special operation itself lasted for more than a month, and as a result, the life of the RVC commander was saved. And to receive $500,000 from the Russian Special Services for the elimination of Kapustin. Commander, may God grant you health. I report that by us. A set of measures was carried out to prevent the armed side from eliminating the commander of the Russian Volunteer Corps, Denis Kapustin. During the actions we carried out, we identified a circle of individuals who were the masterminds of this crime on the part of the Russian Special Services. And the perpetrators, our side also received the corresponding sum of money that was allocated by the Russian Special Services for the execution of this crime. Currently, the commander of the RVC is on the territory of Ukraine and is preparing to continue carrying out the assigned tasks. For the masterminds behind Kapustin's assassination, the GUR even created a video supposedly showing the work of 2 drones. The first drone flew into the minivan where Kapustin was, and the second recorded the aftermath of the strike. The funds that the Russians allocated for Kapustin's elimination and transferred. During the special operation, the GUR fighters were assisted by special units of the main intelligence directorate of Ukraine. Well, first of all, Mr. Denis, welcome back to life, as they say. That is always perhaps a pleasant thing. I'm glad that the money received, let's say, for the order of your elimination was put to use to support our struggle. I wish all of us, and especially you, success. Please return to your official duties. They are waiting for you there. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Colonel, for the excellent execution of the operation, for saving the life of one of our commanders. Keep up the good work. Information about Kapustin's death appeared as early as December 27th. At that time, the RDK reported that their commander had died in the Zaporizhia direction. Meanwhile, the failure of the Russian Special Services is already it became impossible to deny, even for the most ardent Z supporters.
Kapustin is alive. Budman stated that it was a special operation and that Russia paid $500,000 for his elimination. The money has been received. How cleverly they deceived everyone, just like S. Babchenko back in the day. The FSB keeps falling for this trick. And
while some acknowledge the GUR special operation and its success, others actively deny it and call it a bad information stunt.
This was a truly egregious and poorly executed information stunt designed to mislead the public with inaccurate and deceptive claims.
Among other things, Sergei Naumovich from the Center for Information and Psychological Operations comments on the GUR special operation quite accurately and comprehensively.
Operations. Having received a medal and a bonus the day before for eliminating the commander, the RDK is sitting at the festive table. In honor of Stepan Andreevich's birthday, he recalls what a great guy he was back in 25 because, among other things, he also got a prospect for a promotion. He also reported that he handed over $2 million for the elimination, but in reality, he only handed over $500,000. So that's another $1.5 million. They split it up among themselves as usual, and he had even already given a deposit to a realtor for an apartment in Dubai. So he's sitting at the festive table, and suddenly someone nearby says, looking at their smartphone and reading the news, "Come on, what kind of nonsense is that? Maybe artificial intelligence created the video." And his eyes are as wide as saucers, and his jaw is practically hitting his knee. And he asks, with a piece of roast duck on his fork, "What happened?"
However, here, regardless of how this special operation is perceived, it is clearly a success, and the evidence for this is the rescued life of the RDC commander and a donation to the needs of the GUR from the Russian Special Services.
And now, an analysis of the operational situation on the blazing Pokrovsk front line. Fierce fighting continues even in 2026. On the Pokrovsk direction, since the beginning of the day, the occupiers have made 27 attempts to push back our defenders holding positions in the areas of the settlements of Chervony Lyman, Suketskoye, Zarishye, Rodinskoye, Mirnograd, Pokrovsk, Kotlino, Udachnoye, and Molodetskoye, as well as towards the settlements of Grishino and Ivanovka. The defense forces are holding back the enemy's onslaught and have already stopped 20 attacks. The sensational web became a triumph for Ukrainian special services and a complete failure for the Russian ones. We will recall the most unexpected and effective special operations by Ukrainians over the past year. And now, at the start of 26, we will analyze what the enemy should expect in the coming year. A little spoiler, the Kremlin terrorists definitely have nothing good to look forward to.
41 Russian strategic aviation aircraft. Almost $7 billion in losses. This is the result of the Web Special Operation, which was carried out by the Security Service of Ukraine in 2025. On June 1st, 2025, the Security Service of Ukraine attacked Russian aviation with drones in the Irkutsk, Murmansk, Ivanovo, and Ryazan regions. The operation was prepared for a year and a half. A total of 150 drones were used.
Web is a unique multi-stage operation that includes a number of extremely important components. First and foremost, it's about logistics, that is, delivering the means themselves into enemy territory, in our case 150 combat FPV drones. This includes transporting the containers in which the equipment was delivered to the airfields. It involves agent work, communications, and much more. If we look at the web operation as a whole, we see a comprehensive approach, both agent-based and technical.
The SBU studied the international experience of drug cartels to conceal FPV drones from customs and border authorities. A covert logistics company was established in Chelyabinsk. Ukrainian agents purchased 5 cargo trucks and hired drivers transported various goods to reinforce the cover operation. The result exceeded.
This encompasses all the various hopes, anticipations, and requirements that have been established, covering every single aspect and detail that one might foresee or desire, ensuring that nothing is left unaddressed or overlooked in its entirety.
The operation was not without a touch of Russian carelessness. The operation had to be postponed for a month because the Russian drivers went on a drinking binge during the Easter celebrations.
We planned to do it before May 9th, but they started drinking heavily at Easter, abusing alcohol. Then on May 1st they had the goods, and they just lay around for a week. Then came May 9th.
The Special Operation Web succeeded thanks to a unique combination of human intelligence and technical components. And it was a real slap in the face to Putin and his security services.
Even if just a few of those planes had been destroyed or damaged, the damage is enormous, and obviously, no matter how you look at it, it's a colossal failure for the Russians, both the military and the security forces.
In 2025, the SBU also dealt a serious blow to the Crimean Bridge. This was already the 3rd attack on Putin's pride since the start of the full-scale invasion. This time, on June 3rd, the SBU struck the key supports. They used 1,100 kilograms of explosives on the supports. Twice.
God loves a trinity, but the SBU always sees its plans through to the end and never repeats itself. Previously, we hit the Crimean Bridge twice, in 2022 and 2023. Today, we continued this tradition, this time underwater. The third time we hit the bridge, we used 1,100 kilograms of explosives and then another 1,100 kilograms. That is twice 1,100 kilograms each on the key supports of the illegal structure on Ukrainian territory.
In 2022, we drove onto the bridge with a truck carrying 21 tons of explosives in TNT equivalent. In 2023, we approached by water with 2 SBU combat drones, Sea Baby. The third time, in June 2025, there was a new underwater strike. And each time, the Russian services couldn't do anything about it.
Underwater mining, detonation, damaging the support. This is a huge success for the security service of Ukraine, at least from an operational standpoint. The fact is, protecting the Crimean Bridge from all angles, from every direction, is a top priority for the Russian security services.
An SBU drone in December disabled another Russian submarine. Project 636 Varshavyanka, which was based in the port of Novorossiysk. This is the second Russian submarine neutralized by Ukraine. However, underwater drones participated in this for the first time. The explosion caused critical damage to the submarine, effectively removing it from combat service. On board were 4 Kalibr cruise missile launchers, which Russia had used to strike Ukraine. Its value is about $400 million. US.
This is a fantastic operation by the Ukrainian Special Services and the Ukrainian Navy, both in terms of quality and audacity, because, well, just imagine, an underwater drone is a sophisticated device that's extremely difficult to precisely control, especially over a significant distance of several hundred kilometers, and yet it remarkably manages to penetrate Semes Bay, where the crucial Novorossiysk port is strategically located. This area also contains a whole series of vital oil terminals of immense strategic importance. This must be, well, probably along with Sevastopol, the most heavily guarded facility on the Russian Black Sea coast.
In addition to these unique SBU special operations, in 2025, long-range strikes on oil refineries deep in the Russian rear reduced oil exports by more than 30%. And they also limited the capabilities of the enemy's shadow fleet. Additionally, equipment belonging to the aggressor worth many billions of dollars was destroyed both at the front and deep in the rear. This systematic work reduces the aggressor's military potential every day. In 2026, the occupiers can expect even more precise and devastating strikes, according to the SBU.
And now we move to the Kostiantynivka direction of the front. The enemy is becoming more ferocious here as well. In the Kostiantynivka direction, our defenders have repelled 12 enemy offensive actions in the areas of several settlements. These include Oleksandra Shultino, Pleshchevka, Shcherbinivka, Rusin Yar, and towards Konstantinivka, Berestka, and Sofiivka. Another battle is still ongoing. Behind the scenes, maneuvering in the Kremlin is gaining momentum. According to sources, Andrei Belousov's position in the Ministry of Defense is under serious threat. Putin is reportedly disappointed with the pace of the rapid plan's implementation. And the complete liberation of the so-called DNR, which was expected in 2025, has not happened. Meanwhile, Sergei Shoigu is no longer hiding his ambitions. He is ready to propose his own strategy for a swift liberation. And he clearly wouldn't mind returning to his former position. So who will outmaneuver whom in this battle for the ministerial seat? We break it down in our report.
Belousov on his way out. Rumor has it that Putin wants to replace the Minister of Defense.
Andrei Romich, do you have anything to add?
No, everything is going according to plan, very dynamically. I would even confidently say we are significantly ahead of the original pace that was initially planned and projected. In fact, back in December, we reached the highest pace of the entire year.
The thing is, Bunkanov is dissatisfied with Andrei Belousov's slowness regarding the capture of the Donetsk region.
According to several of our sources in the Kremlin, Vladimir Putin is dissatisfied with the fact that Andrei Belousov cannot promise the complete liberation of the DPR this year. Andrei Removich upsets Vladimir Vladimirovich when he says that we are unlikely to liberate the DPR before February or March of 2027. There are no decisions yet regarding the Minister of Defense, but we would recommend that Belousov reflect on this. About the need for greater work efficiency, a source in the Kremlin close to the president told us.
Putin has not been satisfied with Belousov for several months now. One of the nails in the coffin of Belousov's ministerial career was the failure of the operation in Kupiansk.
The Western military group captured the strategically important city of Kupiansk, which the enemy has been unsuccessfully trying to reclaim.
The units of the West Group liberated the city of Kupiansk.
So that's it. It's all finished completely.
That's right, the city is under our control.
The city controlled by Ukrainian, and Putin was lied to, told that Russia was making successful advances.
Accordingly, all of this creates a distorted picture of what is really happening. And Putin, who boasted to Trump, for example, about military successes, saying that we are advancing, it turns out that there are no such successes. Of course, as they say, every problem has a first and last name. In this case, every defeat has its own father. Putin doesn't want to take on this role himself, but it's easier to shift it onto Belousov.
After the setup with Kupiansk, Belousov tried to make amends to Putin and started talking about problems in that direction. It didn't really help, but Belousov did save the planned terror against Ukraine.
Vladimir Vladimirovich categorically rejected the information that Kupiansk is not ours. He was receiving reports of successes from Gerasimov and was himself making important statements about the liberated city. In the defense minister's report, the president saw an attempt to misinform him for some unclear purpose. Honestly, he got very angry and wanted to immediately dismiss Belousov, our source in the Kremlin familiar with the situation reported. According to him, Belousov kept his post only thanks to the strike on Kyiv, which was carried out on Saturday. Vladimir Vladimirovich decided to give the minister a chance, as he so vividly demonstrates the power of Russian weaponry to the whole world and delivers crucial strikes on the capital of the Kyiv regime. In a way, you could say Belousov got lucky.
But less than a week had passed before talk of Belousov's possible resignation started up again.
The arguments in favor of his removal could be quite simple. Belousov is not a military man, he doesn't understand anything, all he can do is count money. But war is a huge pit, it needs a lot of money, so why do we need Belousov? The idea when he was swapped for Shoigu was to shake things up, to give a new impulse. But as we can see, there is no new impulse at all. And I think that removing Belousov is technically possible, so that Putin himself doesn't have to take responsibility for these failures.
Kremlin-affiliated channels are reporting that while Belousov is being prepared for dismissal, one old reindeer herder is celebrating.
I want to sincerely and wholeheartedly thank Sergei Kashketovich Shoigu for what he has accomplished over the past years in building up and strengthening the armed forces and giving them a new and improved image.
The former Minister of Defense of Arabia and current Secretary of Russia's Security Council, Sergei Shoigu, is already preparing a plan to return to the post of minister.
Rumors about Vladimir Vladimirovich's dissatisfaction with Belousov have reached Sergei Shoigu. Despite several unsuccessful attempts, he has not given up hope of returning to the post of Minister of Defense. Sergei Kujugetovich is preparing his own plan for the swift liberation of the DPR. There was already such a plan in the summer, but Putin did not take it seriously, and literally in a couple of weeks he will present it to the president. Sergei Kujugetovich is happy to offer his military experience in these challenging times. Don't forget that under Minister Shoigu, the special military operation began and a successful mobilization was carried out. And there was a lot more as well. I think the president will draw his own conclusions about who deserves to hold the post of Minister of Defense more.
However, even such courtesy and Shoigu's efforts to return to the Ministry of Defense are unlikely to help. After all, if Shoigu was so skillful, he wouldn't have left the ministry at all.
You can want anything you like, but as we understand, Shoigu has lost Putin's trust. That's still the main thing. And it's no coincidence that all his close associates, his inner circle, have either been imprisoned or supposedly removed themselves, shot themselves, jumped out of a window, or threw themselves out. That's why he is not trusted. On top of that, he has lost his authority in the army. And without authority, as you understand, there's really nothing to do there. And
as for Belousov, his future career is pretty clear. He will leave the Ministry of Defense. And it seems he's not really against it. After all, he headed the Ministry of Defense reluctantly.
There are plenty of positions, plenty of sinecures. They could send him to the Federation Council, for example. There's Valentina Matvienko there, an old lady, she's already over 75. They could make him her deputy, and then, in about a year, have him replace her. Well, they could also send him to the State Duma, for example. But they could also send him to the Security Council. After all, they found and created the position of Deputy Chairman of the Security Council for Medvedev, and they'll come up with something for Belousov too. As I understand it, Belousov didn't really want to go to the Ministry of Defense, actually. He's more from the scientific, you could say, academic sphere. He just got pulled in there. And it's really not his field at all. And he probably realized perfectly well that all the blame would fall on him.
The future fate of the Ministry of Defense leadership will depend on the Chief of the General Staff of the Russian Federation, Valery Gerasimov. According to experts and analysts, he is almost the only military man whom Putin trusts. Yes, he lied about Kupiansk too, but still, a loyal dog.
Valery Alexeyevich, your report is accepted. Thank you. The situation on the line of contact. Understood.
So it is Gerasimov who will be proposing candidates for the new Minister of Defense to Putin.
Most likely it will be someone very close to President Putin, perhaps one of his most trusted and long-standing aides, or even an individual who is, so to speak, highly recommended and personally endorsed by influential figures within his inner circle. By Gerasimov himself, General Gerasimov is widely considered to be the most trusted and loyal military figure for President Vladimir Putin, primarily because he steadfastly did not support or participate in Yevgeny Prigozhin's attempted coup. We are also aware that General Popov and several other high-ranking generals had various dealings and communications with Prigozhin, which raises significant questions. This was a major blow for Putin. He felt vulnerable, realizing the army was not on his side. That's why he needs a support base within the army, a specific one. He believes that Gerasimov is actually not a bad military man.
Who will be the next Minister of Defense is still unclear, but it can be said for sure that Shoigu will not give up trying to stay close to power. And
now let's move to the Huliaipole direction of the front. Putin's army is up to its usual tricks here as well. On the Huliaipole front, the defense forces repelled 16 Russian attacks. This took place in the areas of Uspenivka, Huliaipole, and towards Dobropole, Varvarivka, Zeleny, and Pryluhy. Another 5 clashes are still ongoing. Zaliznodorozhna and Rozdestvenka were also hit by airstrikes with glide bombs. Ukrainian drones struck Russian Federation special forces. The results were announced by Robert Madyar Brovdit himself. But that's far from all the bad news for the enemy. More details about what's happening on the front line of contact. Let's watch.
A pre-New Year's salute from the Ukrainian drone systems forces. They struck a storage site as well as a facility for equipping and preparing launches of strike UAVs at Donetsk airport. FPV-2 drones also hit a warehouse near Mangush in the Donetsk region.
This drone was developed not so long ago, but it underwent testing and qualification. Now it is being used, and as you can see, it's being used very effectively on the front line. This drone has shown good results.
The UAV forces of the Ukrainian armed forces have confirmed the destruction of several enemy military targets in temporarily occupied Crimea. Among them are the enemy's Valdai radar station, a command post for a radar reconnaissance complex, and an unmanned naval boat. More than 120 Special Forces soldiers from the 14th Special Purpose Brigade of the Russian GRU have been eliminated. The SBS, together with the SO, carried out a planned operation during the night of December 26th. The operation took place in the temporarily occupied settlement of Berdyansk, Donetsk region.
As of today, our highly skilled and dedicated pilots are truly among the very best in the entire world, without any exaggeration whatsoever. And the innovative tactics and comprehensive strategy they meticulously develop based on their many extensive years of invaluable combat experience since the pivotal year of 2022 are consistently showing exceptionally good and impressive results.
The results of the work of the Unmanned Systems Forces are published by their commander Robert Brody, call-sign Madyar, who in June 2022, while on the Kherson front, created a separate aerial reconnaissance unit called Madyar's Birds. According to the military, this is how the combat journey of this unique technological unit within the Ukrainian armed forces began. A unit, we should add, that to this day does not let the enemy sleep peacefully. Citing Commander-in-Chief Syrskyi, military correspondent Yulia Kiriyenko reports that Russian forces control approximately half of Pokrovsk. The defense forces state that the main enemy forces are concentrated in the southern districts of the city, where Ukrainian drones are precisely eliminating them. Meanwhile, in the city center and closer to the northern districts, Russians are dying in close combat under the pressure of Ukrainian soldiers.
As for the defensive lines, which our guys built with their own hands, they are holding them. And I believe they will continue to hold them until the moment there is something to cling to and something to hold on to. Our Titans will stand their ground to the very end. And now Putin's task, while he is negotiating with Trump, is that these ridiculous assaults have started again. Why? Because in order to
Putin needs to show that he is now on the offensive in the Dnipro region, that everything is going well for him, that he is succeeding, and that the Ukrainians are incapable. This is meant to intimidate the Russian army. He will now try to use these negotiations to get Donetsk, Luhansk, and Zaporizhia handed over to him. According to
analysts from Deep State, the settlement of Huliaipole in the Zaporizhia direction is located in the gray zone. Both Ukrainian and Russian forces are present there. Sometimes they're literally in neighboring basements. Fighters from the 116th Brigade showed what the occupiers had ravaged, Kupiansk, Kharkiv region. The Ukrainian armed forces have almost completely liberated the city. Putin has been boasting about its capture since November.
And now an analysis of the situation on the Lyman front. The Russian world continues to destroy, kill, and maim here as well. On the Lyman front, the invading army attacked 8 times near Nadezhda, Zareknoe, and in the direction of the settlements of Drobyshev, Stavki, and Lyman. At present, another battle is still ongoing. A non-stop military draft. Putin has signed the law. And now, all year round, Russians will supposedly be drafted for compulsory service. But in reality, they'll be sent straight to the front lines. Details and evidence are in our next report.
The recruitment of cannon fodder for the front will continue, all year round. The Russian dictator has signed a decree for continuous military conscription in 2026. According to this law, people will receive electronic draft notices all year round. And all year round, people will have to attend medical examinations and draft boards. At the same time, the Russian Ministry of Defense claims that, as before, new recruits will be sent to the troops and military units twice a year. In other words, the Kremlin has decided to expand its resources to fulfill the conscription plan, so that as many conscripts as possible can be brainwashed and sent to war.
all of this is done so that before people are sent to combat units, there is already time to persuade them voluntarily or by force by telling them all sorts of tall tales like, well, you're going to serve anyway, right? You're going to serve a year anyway, so what do you have to lose? It's time, come on, let's sign a contract, you'll get paid, you'll be stationed in the rear. Well, we all know these stories. And in fact, this is the time the enlistment officers will have to quickly convert conscripts into contract soldiers. And accordingly, contract soldiers can then be fully used in any combat operations wherever they may take place.
Officially, from January 1st to December 31st, 2026, Russia plans to conscript 261,000 people aged 18 to 30. Since the start of the full-scale war, the Russian Ministry of Defense has been constantly increasing its conscription targets. For example, in the spring of 2023, 147,000 were conscripted. In 2024, 150,000, and the spring draft of 2025 became the largest in the past 15 years. 160,000 conscription targets are relentlessly increasing. And now, the period during which the military enlistment office can hunt for and pressure conscripts is also being extended.
You just can't truly grasp the full, overwhelming scale of the impending disaster after you formally sign the crucial contract. Because essentially, there are only a very few viable ways out of such a predicament, being officially classified as a 300th. Severely wounded in battle, deserting the ranks, yes, or simply being killed in action. Well, you could also surrender and become a prisoner of war. So those are basically the ways out of the contract.
The increase in the number of conscripts, forced contract signings, and laws on perpetual conscription are all consequences of the massive losses in the war. Because as long as Putin refuses to end the so-called special operation, the Ukrainian armed forces eliminate hundreds of thousands every year. Occupiers on the front lines.
For the first time in a long period in recent months, according to intelligence reports, including those from our Western allies, the reinforcements for the occupiers' personnel do not make up for the losses on the line of contact.
That's all for today, but very soon on the Front News program there will be new, unique materials from our journalists reporting from the hottest spots of the war, obtained so that you know the truth. This was Vladimir Timoshenko with you. Take care of yourselves and your loved ones.